We will indeed, as we start off on the bottom left-hand side to kick off North America. Our red Protoss player is Neeb.
And up at the top right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Zerg player known as the Queen of Blades. She is Scarlett.
What do you think is going to be the plan of Scarlett this series? Do you think we see super aggression, or does she kind of crack out something a little bit longer? Because I know she's really well known for that, but she has not shied away from the late game too much recently when in Korean events.
Absolutely. I think that she is the kind of player who, it's not that she goes for all of these all-ins because she just says, well, I don't want to play you in a long game or anything. It's usually a little bit more strategic than that. I think she thinks about, oh, well, this is the current meta, or this is your particular play style, or this is the thing that you like to do a lot. And she tends to play to that more so than just, oh, I don't really like playing the late game, or, oh, I don't really like playing such and such against such and such style. It really does feel like it's a lot more about what she thinks of her opponent than it is what she typically likes, if that makes any sense.
No, it definitely does make a lot of sense. I wonder then what she thinks of Neeb, because Neeb's kind of in a weird spot, honestly, because he's had that mixture of real kind of like, everyone's like, well, is Neeb even practicing at the moment? Into at Stay-at-Home Story Cup, he looked so good, but then still got knocked out earlier than expected, even after he looked really, really good in the group. He was about to advance first place, took a really bad fight against Innovation in a Game 5, and then lost to U-Thermal in a pretty unconvincing series just after. So it's kind of weird to think where Neeb is at. The thing is, it's funny because I feel like Neeb has always struggled with players like Bly. He even lost to Bly, proxy hatching him at Katowice this year, which was another event we saw kind of, an early exit from Neeb. But then Scarlett's proxy hatches and chaos against him has just not worked for years, it feels like.
Yeah, I wish I had a better explanation for Neeb's form, because I completely agree. He has been really inconsistent, and not just inconsistent in the sense that, oh, sometimes he plays normal and sometimes he plays really poorly. I mean, inconsistent in both fronts. Sometimes he plays out of his mind good, and I'm like, Neeb, you look like one of the best PvZers in the world right now. And sometimes I watch him like, Neeb, I can't believe you just lost to like a 5.2k MMR Zerg player or something. Like, it really oscillates a lot. And I don't really have an amazing explanation outside of, I think that Neeb is kind of, the way he rose up in the scene was playing an absurd amount of StarCraft. I mean, we talk about players like Serral. Serral has a very balanced lifestyle. He kind of leads the way that a lot of people would describe like proper athletes training for events and everything. Neeb just kind of ground out 12 to 14 hours a day of StarCraft, and I think it wasn't sustainable. And I feel like that's maybe part of the reason why like we see ups and downs from him, is I think he just gets really focused on StarCraft and then probably fades a bit. But I honestly am not too sure. You'd have to ask him.
Well, this opening is obviously a Stargate, right? So it's already that kind of difference to what we usually see. It is a larger map, though. If you're going to play Stargate on one of these, Isochromes, definitely not a bad one to play Stargate on. I mean, this is kind of what Neeb likes to do as well, though, right? Because the Stargate is very resistant to a lot of the all-ins. It keeps you fairly safe. It lets you just macro up into a safe, comfortable position that these guys have been playing in PvZ for years. And look at this, right off the bat, gets 3 drones, loses a bit of health on the Oracle, but 3 workers killed already. Never going to be arguing about that as the Phoenix comes in and will grab the Overlord out on the bottom.
Yeah, I think that second Queen popping out caught him a little off guard, so took a bit more damage than he wanted to. But yeah, Robo behind this. They got another gateway on the way. This is all looking like pretty normal stuff, but I know we were talking about Scarlett and what her game plan would be in this kind of situations. She is making a few more lings, which I believe are usually just there to help deal with like an adept or something like that would be coming on out. But yeah, just more drones behind it. And I really want to know, how does she respond to, whatever Neeb decides to throw at her? If it's going to be just like a Robo and a Warp Prism, or if it's going to be much more defensive play.
Well, she is getting that up and running Scarlett, so she's just pretty on track to play fairly regularly so far, of course. The thing about Zerg is that you never quite know when they're suddenly going to be like, this is my drone count. These are my units that I'm going to build now. Let's just go for this, right? So, yeah, I kind of wonder again where she might go with it, but taking a lot of gases, and that's a pretty good indicator that she is kind of playing for the long run here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny too, because Neeb, I mean, kind of touched upon this a little bit, but the 3 Oracle opening, really, I feel like it's not the most common thing, especially when you look at like European Protoss players these days. It absolutely still happens, but it does feel like a lot of the European Protoss players these days in PvZ are going for all of the other kinds of openings and doing tricky adept plays and everything. But it's kind of nice to see a bit of a throwback and kind of showing that Neeb is just really sticking to his guns on like the old standard.
Yep. I like it too, because I feel like it's a sign of confidence as well. He's just like, you know what? If I open Stargate, you can't kill me while I'm trying to go Twilight or something crazy like that. I just get into a good position, I get into a good game. And I think from Neeb's point of view, that's just where he wants to be. He's very confident from that position. And Scarlett just rushes straight up to the infestation pit here. So that's how she's going to approach this. Swarm hosts on this map with Niduses work well. There are so many positions around the map where you can actually set up the Niduses and just kind of hop across dead airspace or hop across kind of dead ground space. So it is a very good map for that. And of course, large that takes away some of that kind of counterattack potential that Neeb might have if he cleans up a wave of locusts. What is very cool about it is this is Scarlett saying, yeah, let's play late game. Let's go into something that does play a little bit longer here.
Yeah. Well, we are going to see the Oracle starting to dart around, and they do make their way over to the main base. They've gotten a handful of drone kills here and there as well. But I want to note that infestation pit that was thrown down and the Nidus network. So the infestation pit was the natural, and that got scouted out. The Nidus network should just be assumed, I would imagine, when you see the infestation pit, though. The Neeb, even though he doesn't scout the Nidus, he should probably expect one.
Yeah, because it's an infestation pit that doesn't make sense for anything else, right? So I don't think Neeb's too upset about this. I'm a little surprised about the Oracles. They were moving around trying to look to see what was going on, but they just weren't really in the right places to find the Nidus. So the first Nidus does go off on the bottom. Only a few Stormers here already, and Scarlett needs to be careful to actually get those away. Good force kill from Neeb, and that's a very quick early Swarm host kill.
Yeah, and killing a bunch of these Ravagers in the center of the map. This is already a really, really nice start to the defense here from Neeb, especially considering it seemed like he was not exactly super prepared for the Nidus Swarm, but first Nidus Swarm only having 3 Swarm set unloaded definitely did not help all that much. And hey, Neeb is already in position to start sniping off potentially 1 or 2 of these Swarm over here.
Yeah, I was going to say it was nice killing off the Ravagers, but it does take away the Oracles as like part of the Nidus defense, right? Because they are meant to be a unit which or they're meant to kind of play this role oftentimes of they cover a different area to your main army for denying those Niduses. Now you've got active Niduses on the top and the right side of the bases of Neeb. So then it becomes a little bit more tricky to really figure out where those locusts are coming from. Fortunately, he does clean up the one on the top. So he has a pretty good idea. This one will be on the right. His army's in place. Let's see how well he trades. No Storm yet. He does have a super battery available and a cannon. And with that, this shouldn't be too bad for him. They shouldn't be taking too many losses. And if he doesn't take losses from this wave of locusts, then I really got to say, it feels like he's just not taking losses at all. And Scarlett's not getting enough done as she takes drone damage across the map. The Zealot run by is working out.
Yeah, I mean, when you go for these sort of Swarm host plays, it really is about the first 2 or 3 waves of locusts getting some damage done. And the first 2 waves have not really worked out. This is the 3rd wave, and it actually, a lot of them land before they really even get in range of any of the Nexus. So Neeb just backs up, and I actually think he's doing pretty fine. He's going to take a few probe losses over here, but Scarlett is busy microing her Roaches and her Ravagers, so she can focus fire down more of these probes. And she starts transitioning out, but Neeb is already looking like he has a pretty scary army being built up and a fleet beacon already getting up to start transitioning.
Yeah, the fleet beacon's really, really nice because that just says, yeah, I'm ready to go late game. I'm not. It just says that he's, feels really good about his position, but that's a dead 4th base, so suddenly you lose your 4th base now.
And at the natural.
Yeah,
a lot of units are storming on in. They're actually catching a bunch of these High Templars off on their own. Storms come down, but they're not enough to kill the Roaches. And at the same time, even the natural expansion, I mean, a couple of those units are going to go down, and now probes are starting to fall. Recall is used to try and pull back a bunch of these Immortals. Neeb is doing some damage on the other side of the map as well, but I really think that Scarlett She might be more committed with this, but she is getting more done with it as well.
Yeah, she absolutely is. The biggest thing I worry about is Neeb's lack of a fourth base. I feel like Neeb has killed so many roaches the last few moments, though. That's got to be scary for Scarlett. She is building a lot of hydras, but with the storms on the map, it feels like a very flimsy army. If the locusts aren't up and then you storm those hydras and your zealots just charge straight in on top of them, what do you really have that can just stand and fight to Scarlett? Not really much, right? That's my biggest concern for her, because it is also feeling like Neeb is not far away from just going across the map to maybe test the waters there.
Cordy, it's funny you say that because I completely agree with you, but Scarlett apparently does not, because she was just droning even more, and she's making more Swarmos. Like that's her game plan right now. She is teching up into Hydras, lurkers, which I think is a great transition point to try and deal with exactly what you're talking about. I am just a little bit afraid that, yeah, Neeb will finally have this "I've had enough with this" moment, and he'll start moving across the map saying, well, you keep canceling my fourth base and done so much damage, I just have to do something now.
He won't, though. He just starts up the 2 extra Stargates in the fourth again, so unless she cancels it once more, but at that point, it's already so much time wasted, right? Because now there are Hydras plus the port for them. That's a few Swarm hosts going down. Storms on top of the Locust. Obviously, doesn't want to lose anything other than Zealots here, and actually only really loses shields. Only on the top side being handled. Neeb kind of feels like he's back on top of all of this once again. If you can get that fourth base up, saturated, and then really start building some carriers here, then I do like it, because it feels like Scarlett's still preparing for like a later stage of the mid game with the Lurkers, right? And that doesn't really do anything against a Protoss play who feels like they can already get the carriers. Oh, you deny the Nidus, you're going to have the Swarm host a little bit trapped, but the Locust will force this army to back away.
Yeah, and does eventually kill them off, keeps that sentry alive that was getting target fired down. But Scarlett has bought herself so much time, and now we have the Lurker Den finished up and everything. It's another Nidus Storm is actually just finishing up to try and connect the bases a bit, and this might even give Neeb a little bit of a scare and keep him at home for a bit. But there are those first 3 carriers finally getting started on up. I would love if Neeb was also finding the extra resources to invest in +1 air weapons, since he's really is committing to this Stargate transition.
Those carriers gonna be good if you can get to enough of them, right? I mean, I feel like the first 3 are okay. You get to 6, and then you're really talking, especially against the Zerg who, what does Scarlett have to deal with carriers? No Spire on the way. Yeah, she can get a Hive up and maybe a Duct into Hydras. Vipers up off the Hive, which already has the Hive up. So it just feels like Scarlett doesn't have much of a plan there. But I guess, again, we're not on that number of carriers yet. Maybe Scarlett can do something before then, but at the moment, it feels like every time she tries to move across, Neeb is 100% on top of this, and it's just picking up unit after unit.
Yeah, I feel like it's very telling when you look at Scarlett's vision and kind of where she's been throwing down these Nidus worms. A lot of them have been actually pretty far away from any of Neeb's bases, so there is a bit of walking distance she has to go through, and Neeb has just had his units positioned pretty far out in front of his bases, ready to intercept the locations where the Nidus worms could potentially go. And this is a great example of it, right? He gets the Nidus worm way up on the north side, and by the time the Swarm must even make it to a base, Neeb is way out into the safe zone, because Locusts are about to expire. Although these Locusts do get a lot of damage done to one of the Immortals and kill off the sentry.
Well, extra Storms, Lurkers are just going down again. I feel like every time I talk for you, Dragon, I'm just telling you about how there's even more, even more Lurkers are going down, or more of Scarlett's units dropping and dropping. It's not really what I want to be saying, but it just feels like the narrative for me right now is that Neeb's got this under control, teching up nicely, and I don't think Scarlett, because of the style she's been playing, right, she's not really had a huge eco lead for like an extended period, so she's not really set up to suddenly be like, okay, I've kept you pinned back, now I'm going to unleash my Corruptor wave and your carriers stand no chance. No, she's going to be able to afford, like 5 Corruptors at the start? And that just isn't really going to do it. And I love this double expansion from Neeb, because, hey, if this base goes down, he's still going to eventually get the base on the right side. And all he really wants there is the gas to help him keep on building these carriers.
It's most certainly going to work out here. Even though he ends up losing that base, like you said, the south base is there. And there is a bit of army here to help defend. Gets a tiny bit scary for a moment, especially with no detection. But he's just going to try and storm his way through the Lurkers. The Lurkers both still survive, though he has one more storm available, but I think he's busy trying to do some harassment in the main base while pulling the rest of his army back home. And I think he finally gets the revelation off, and he's going to be able to clean up 2 of the lurkers, but this base actually might end up falling as well.
That's funny that he revelates the 2 lurkers that are super low. That could have just been stormed, then storms them, and the rest of the lurkers is now the real issue with no detection on them. But of course, I mean, we've got an army coming in from 2 sides. New revelation will be ready pretty quickly. Actually catches the lurkers. They try to back away. Force fields to stop them escaping. Again, it's a big pickup from Neeb, and okay, he's kept back on 4 bases. If he keeps trading like this, I'm not even sure I mind him being kind of kept back on 4 bases for that little bit longer. I mean, Scarlett's only just recently gotten up to 5. Her 6th base here is going to be denied. She only just recently got past 70 drones.
Yeah, a couple corruptors are over here, and they do manage to abduct the carriers, and they barely manage to kill off one of them after 2 abducts. But a lot of feedbacks and also some good storm damage on those corruptors is going to make things kind of scary here for Scarlett.
Absolutely. It's not just kind of scary. I think it's terrifying because I feel like the corruptors already kind of hurting a little bit. You get a couple Archons under them and the storms again, and maybe they go down. Then there's nothing to stop these carriers. So you got to be really careful with how this fight sets up. Basically, I mean, you're talking about a world in which as well, here we go, feedbacks across the Vipers, storms to push the corruptors away, and you're already talking about a scenario where Skull just can't realistically fight this. I love the 1 abduct, and that is definitely the way to do it, but there's no 2nd abduct. The Vipers are all super low on energy. Storms will hit the Locusts as they try and come in. Looks like they will get a lot of the ground army. A few Hydras getting here. What can these carriers do as they kind of decide to back away? Too many interceptors lost at this point, I think. I don't think the corruptors can justify a dive into this, but the yoink will be good. For 1 more carrier killed, maybe now Neeb is going to struggle a little bit because he hasn't had the economy he wanted to rebuild on all of this.
Yeah, he managed to establish that bottom right-hand base again, so there is a bit more of an economy than before, but those swarm hosts really managed to devastate a lot of the ground army for Neeb, and he kind of just ran out of a lot of the High Templar. He was down to 5 High Templar during that fight, and all 5 of his High Templar were out of that storm energy for a while. He's going to end up recalling over here to try and salvage this base. May even want to go for a shield battery overcharge if he runs out of Zealots and Archons here, in case that Locust Wave decides to go after the Nexus. Ends up not needing it, just ends up sacrificing the ground army. But man, I feel like Neeb has got to shut down that 6th base again, and then maybe try and find some other ways to harass. The Zealot run bys have done a little bit, but not as much as I'm sure he was hoping for.
Love what you're saying, because I was just going to say Scarlett's been amazingly disruptive, right? And thumbs up to her, because she needed to be to get time to get the corruptors up in good enough numbers to get her economy back on track for this phase of the game. And she's checked off all the boxes. She's done all of the right things. And it's thanks to what she was able to do with those attacks around the map, denying that base of Neeb so many times.
Oh, no.
Oh, so Oracle's going down. The thing is, Oracles have to be replaced because they're generally, you know, your revelations, so you know where the army is. So I'd be very surprised if Neeb didn't replace those at all. It's just a cost he wasn't really wanting to have to pay right there.
I feel like we're starting to see these Swarmhouse get more and more damage done lately, and it really is just about the fact that Scarlett isn't just being aggressive with the Swarmhouse anymore. She's being aggressive with her whole army, and by posturing constantly in the middle of the map with her entire army, it forces Neeb to react with a large chunk of his army. And that's when the Swarmhouse just hit from a different side, and now Neeb isn't doing what he was doing before, where he has a bunch of armies scattered around, kind of like a half a screen or a full screen in advance of any of his bases, kind of protecting them. Now the Swarmhouse are right in front of his natural. They're coming out right in front of his 3rd base.
Yeah, just gonna come straight down. Gonna grab an Archon. High Templar being chased as well. A few more storms. I mean, even these are extra storms that I think Neeb doesn't want to spend because he feels like he doesn't have enough storms at the moment, which I don't really disagree with, you know?
Just look at the spine spore wall on the top center base, because it is... I mean, this is what you do against a Protoss player if you really want to frustrate them and make them feel like I don't have any real options right now. This is just one of those situations where you're stuck there trying to figure out, okay, how do I put pressure on, because I can't attack just yet, but I also need to do something to keep them from just taking bases like crazy. So you try and do these Zealot run-bys, but when there's 8 spine crawlers and a bunch of spore crawlers there, that's not going to fly. It's just not going to do anything.
Yeah, Neeb's getting a mothership. He's getting Flux Vein and Voids. He's just saying, yeah, I'm going to have to straight up fight things. And the good news for Neeb is that he got 2 bases up all of a sudden, right? He finally established base 5, and he takes that step forward to take base 6. The problem for Neeb is probably that he can't take a base 7 until bases 5 and 6 mine out, because I don't see how he stretches himself out to the left side if those swarm hosts are still alive while defending the bottom right until he can just give up the bottom right. So he kind of just has to play off these 2 bases for a while, and that's terrifying because Scarlett, with that static defense, is starting to mine those extra bases, and he's done a good job of defending it. Scarlett doesn't have the forward base on the top side, which I think would be really good for her. I mean, Neeb is trying to expand on the left, but as long as Scarlett keeps up the pressure there, I don't really see that being a realistic base for Neeb to take. And if that's not a realistic base, Neeb has to try and keep Scarlett off a base 3. Otherwise, again, her bank is going to be terrifying.
It's already gotten to that point where Scarlett has had a bit of a bank lead above Neeb for, I want to say, like 3, 4, maybe 5 minutes at this point. So I don't know how Neeb exactly is going to be able to catch up on that. And that bank is going into things like static defense and everything, which I think will be much better off here for Scarlett, because she can do exactly this. She can reposition those buildings, all that static defense, as she takes new bases. Neeb has to reestablish them every single time he takes a new base. If he wants to do something like you were saying, where he wants to take a base in the top left, well, you got to basically have your bottom right mined out, or you have to have it completely secure and covered.
Well, big round of Locust going to pop up and go towards, I mean, what is the natural expansion? It's been there a little while. I mean, I don't think this is a Nexus Neeb really worries about, but there's stuff like the Cybercore he'd probably like to keep alive. And of course, if you lose the natural, it becomes easy to kind of justify just going straight to the main, and that's where a lot more of the production is, and that's why Neeb will still fight this position a little bit. The Nexus, he doesn't care so much about.
It looks like Neeb is finally starting to push on to creep a bit more and trying to do maybe some more damage, but he encounters the hard wall of spores and spines with the rest of the army and just decides to back off. And now, yeah, another Nidus Swarm will finish up on the top left. More Swarm host damage. I feel like Neeb has to figure out a game plan to actually push in, because the longer he waits, I feel like the more setup Scarlett's going to be, and the more she can just trade with Locust. She never has to take a real fight.
No, for sure. It's just one of those that, like, where do you go as Neeb without kind of... I'm struggling to pick words because I'm struggling to figure out what Neeb does. Because...
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, there's nowhere to really go. There's static defense everywhere, and yet if he just sits back, Scarlett's just continuing to deal damage, right? If he tries to take a straight-up fight, it's just not where he needs it to be. And there's just so many bases on this map, and with Scarlett pushing her static defense forward, it gets rough. I mean, Neeb makes a play up the left-hand side. Maybe this is his chance to get some bases up here, but I really do... I will stand by what I said before. If you get the bases up here, the bottom side is going to start getting hit by Scarlett's forces, and it's just so difficult to split enough off to make that work.
I'll say what I think Neeb has done in the past to try and make stuff happen here. One thing I feel like he hasn't really had running around, which I don't blame him. There's a lot of creep spread and a lot of spore callers and spines. I feel like usually he does have like blink DTs, and I say this not just because I'm a memer for blink DTs, but I actually think like 6-7 blink DTs running around, they can take on a surprising amount of static defense sometimes. You can clear that off with Zealot run-bys in advance and then go in with those, start sniping off bases like that while also posturing on the other side of the map. I feel like there's little things like that, or even just having a Warp Prism that kind of runs straight through, gets to the main, the Corruptors get drawn out of position, now the carriers can start acting. There's little things like that he's been able to do in the past, but Scarlett has just made it so difficult for him to pull off a lot of that stuff.
When was the last time you think we saw a Neeb Scarlett game that went 25 minutes like this? Because
it's hard to say, because my memory of Neeb Scarlett is just, it's always either really short or really long. Like I know the entire rest of the series is going to be long too now.
Yeah, no, it's just fun. It's just not what I expected out of this in the slightest, right? So I really enjoying this display in our first game of North America for Dragon SC. Why you've been so excited for months on end for this to begin. Love this from Neeb. He's gonna get forward. He's gonna make something happen. Couple fungals for the interceptors.
Yeah, he's gonna be losing a few of the interceptors over here, but I think he does still have a healthy count of 45 right now. I love that he's just mixing in like 1 or 2 Tempests over here, just because it does allow him to start picking away gradually at some of the Spore Callers and stuff, or even just Vipers that poach their way a little too far forward for an Abduct or something. We do have Scarlett actually going for a drop overlord. I wonder what that's for.
Yeah, a bit of harassment. And I actually don't even know what you
A lurker drop or something.
Yeah, I've honestly got no idea. I'm very excited to see what she comes up with for it. This is neat, by the way. I love that he's taking the bottom right base because it kind of counters the issues I was talking about before with trying to take that left-hand side. I do just worry if that gives the left-hand side to Scarlett. And that if you give the left-hand side to Scarlett, is that an issue? Hey, did you even look? I haven't looked at the resources lost tab in a while, but Neeb is trading 12,000 resources worse than Scarlett. So it's actually important for him to A, start trading way better, and to B, actually mine more than Scarlett's mine, which is what he's going to start doing with this base, but he cannot allow Scarlett to mine the left-hand side at all.
That's kind of funny that that's the case, because I feel like they have actually mined relatively similar amounts. Oh my god, those fungal growths are going to be pretty brutal, especially if you start mixing in some parasitic bombs on that army. Neeb's got to be careful, but he is starting to break through some of the static defense. The problem is it's just static defense. He's not actually even really fighting the corruptors yet.
But if you get through the stack defense, right, there's a reason Scarlett's hiding behind it. Is because she doesn't think her army's going to stand up well against what Neeb has. So if you can get through this and keep on going, maybe there's some potential there. You know, the infestors are running a bit low on energy. I feel like this is not what Neeb wants, letting the corruptors get some free pickings off of some abducts. He is going to keep chasing forward with the rest of this now, already replacing a lot of what he's been spending money on. I mean, the swarm hosts are just there to the left-hand side too, so the corruptors kind of need to fight just to protect those. This is becoming chaotic in the middle of the map. The Nidus will go down. Scarlett is backing away. A 6k, 5k bank on her side. Neeb still with 5k, 3k. The swarm hosts fallen, taking away big harassment options for Scarlett.
Yeah, also remember that Scarlett's going to be able to remake her units that she's losing a lot faster than Neeb. Neeb is making units like more Tempest. He's making Void Rays and everything. The Corruptors will come out pretty quickly, and she can make a large wave of those Corruptors. So it's the Zerg strategy, right? You can make the Remax happen a lot faster than the Protoss player who has to have as many targets as they want to produce from, which, granted, Neeb has 6 of them. That's pretty gosh darn good, but it still takes some time. So when the fights are happening and you're expecting reinforcements to show up mid-fight, that is where Scarlett, I think, is going to be a lot stronger. So I like that if he's going to engage, just back off afterwards. But, oh, the right-hand side, the Swarmos are going to come in, and even the shield battery overcharge is not enough to keep it alive versus these Locusts.
Yeah, Locusts are pretty crazy high damage output, and this has got to be Neeb running out of mining soon, right? And I know he's got a bit of bank, and obviously he can rebuild this space as well, but his income is going to be drying up quite heavily here. I mean, Scarlett's gas income is also extremely low at the moment. Not sure if there's some gas that she just doesn't have mining properly. We're going to have a breakout into another larger fight here. Parasitic bombs going down. There's fungal growth. Try and drop when possible. Looks like Scarlett's going to back away and give up this base initially, a base which isn't quite so important. The Nidus, maybe, I don't even know how much he needs the Nidus at this stage anymore either.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's kind of nice, especially just to put the Swarmos back into. If they are getting focus fire down, you can kind of keep them in a safe space for a little bit. Almost like an Overlord drop. DT Blink is getting closer and closer to finishing, and I feel like this is kind of the time that I was talking about where warping in maybe 6-7 DTs, it's a supply-efficient army for how much damage output it can have in harassment. And this would be a great time to send them along to the top left-hand side, but he's probably busy just trying to control his army right now. Mothership does get pulled forward. Storm's coming down, actually, funnily enough, on top of some of the carriers over here. The Voiders are still to do a lot of damage to these Corruptors, though, and starting to chase them back little by little. Another wave of Swarmos Locusts come out, but there's no high Templars to even kill.
Wow, and he's winning this fight big time. I mean, if he can keep chasing and basically fight Scarlett's reinforcements as they're spawning on their own without it all gathering together, that's going to be the big issue, right? Because at the moment, Scarlett's not really killing enough to make Neeb stop pushing forward. This fight was actually on top of so many spore crawlers, though. I didn't even see them until the army backed away.
I'm not sure that Neeb saw all of them. Another fungal growth is going to soften up this army. Remember, there are 20 Corruptors on the way, Wardy. Neeb has done a magnificent job trading really, really well during those fights. But it is going to take him a lot longer to remake those 5 carriers than it's going to take Scarlett to get out another massive round of Corruptors.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the strength, but then Scarlett doesn't actually have enough gas to rebuild all those Corruptors. You know, I mentioned that gas mining was like lowering down. It's because you got to remember, Scarlett, all of her bases that she took a long time ago. So a lot of the gas is mined out. And then on one of her fresher bases, she only just started mining gas. She's 50 gas deep on these extractors in the center. And that's ridiculous. So that's really, really, really rough, because that's just the sort of thing that she could have had going so much sooner and would have let us get in this bank. And she's in a great spot. Instead, she's maybe in some trouble.
Sniping off an infestor or two with these zealots is a great trade there for Neeb, because both these players have a bigger mineral bank than they have gas right now. We're going to end up seeing Neeb starting to move a bit further forward. I like this, even setting up the stasis trap, because he knows that this base is incredibly important to keep alive right now. And here's actually a funny thought, is that while Scarlett's expanding up to the top left, Neeb still has that base that's above his natural he can eventually take and try and start mining from. So I kind of feel like that other base that's basically untouched this whole game, I think it's going to be easier for Neeb to take over Scarlett.
Yeah, I think so too. And one of the important things I mentioned before, how Neeb needed to start trading better, he did. Right now, it's only a 6,000 resource difference, so he's caught up by 6,000 resources. And while he isn't mining that left side base yet, Scarlett's only just getting there. So you can kind of imagine if he takes one more fight like that, they're kind of in similar positions in terms of money, just he would have to mine from that left base if Scarlett mines from the upper left base.
Time warp is starting to come, or sorry, stasis trap starting to come on. Out catching a bunch of zerglings. Even got a probe over here, just joining the fray. Probably maybe a little bit misclicked in there. We're going to end up seeing 13 more corruptors to round out Scarlett's army at a max 200 supply. I also see that Scarlett is sending a lot of units on that left-hand side. A bunch of Zerglings going to try and prevent Neeb from taking that base. She has a burrowed Zergling over there ready to spot out and make sure that Neeb is not getting ahead in the economy.
The right thing to do, she can't let that go up for free for sure. So it's good that she's harassing it. Love these Lings and Hydras. Get them in the main, you know, shut down some of that production. I know there's obviously production elsewhere as well, but yeah, I mean, we've not seen any attack to this natural for a long time. We're even going to deny air upgrades, right? And this is something which we maybe could have seen from Scarlett a little bit more recently to just slow Neeb down, getting to the point he was at, because this left side has been so open for, I want to say like 10 plus minutes at this point since we last saw even Swarm Host action over here, killing the Nexus.
Yeah, Neeb basically gave up on defending that side, so I completely agree with you on that. Funny enough, we just only have 2 Swarm Hosts around, but I think I was surprised. I thought Scarlett only had a small little squadron of Lings and Hydras on that left-hand side. I thought for sure she was going to take this opportunity to snipe off that bottom right-hand base from Neeb, but it looks like Neeb gets away with it, and now just has his army postured in the center of the map, kind of defending both the left and right-hand side a little bit. But he's not really going to be able to take that top left-hand side. And I feel like Scarlett's building this spine crawler, spore crawler wall because this is her way of establishing that last remaining base. I think this is her game plan to say, no. These resources go to me unless you want to fight through an entire 200 supply of drones turned into static defense.
All right, well, we're just going to be seeing the army coming around this left-hand side and looking to see where it will go. So,
going to finish up finally, since he managed to save it.
Yeah, I mean, this this base on the left-hand side is getting a little bit funky.
Yeah, I think Scarlett may have just noticed the wall of shield batteries that Neeb is making now. Okay, let me ask you. Next level question, Wardy. I have not seen a long 40+ minute game in PvZ or anything lately. Do you, when you make the shield battery wall now, build a proxy nexus so you can overcharge some of the shield batteries?
I mean,
is it worth it? The 400 minerals?
35 minutes into Ice and Chrome, I'm kind of happy to say we can do whatever. Like, honestly, like, it wouldn't be the worst thing I've ever heard of. But I mean, you kind of want to get batteries here anyway, right? So,
yeah. I guess I'd rather have 2 cannons and a shield battery than the ability to overcharge 1 battery.
I mean, it depends on the situation a little bit as well. I feel like these fights are kind of way beyond the point of like battery overcharges changing much anyway.
Okay, Baneling's gonna be busting on through. That's taking care of most, if not all, of the shield batteries. Only a few cannons are gonna remain, and I believe that Neeb's recall is off cooldown if he wants to try and keep this base alive, but for now, just so focused on that left-hand side.
Tempest's gonna fire up as these spores need to be broken down. We do have Corruptors, Broodlords, and Festers all hanging out overhead on these Spore Crawlers. So setting up over there again, couple Vipers, few Infestors, all of this building. There's the Oracle going forward and dropping a Revelation onto those few Corruptors. Spores still pressing through. I feel like a couple of these spores didn't need to move forward necessarily there. That's a lot of... What if Neeb just goes to the left and avoids the spores? He could actually just fire over the base, over the like ledge onto that base of Scarlett.
Yeah, I would not hate something like that. I think it gets a little bit scary because if you're over the ledge or you're over in the dead airspace, that means that the High Templars can't follow and storm in front, so or even feedback in front, so the Vipers can start abducting you. I think that's where it gets a little bit scary. But Wardy, I'm getting kind of worried for Neeb. He's already out of his gas bank. He's hardly got any mining. And every single time he tries to engage this, he gradually loses more interceptors. And those require minerals to replace. If he can't, like his entire game plan right now is predicated on this base.
All right, well, we see some of the Tempest getting shot down. Storms are being thrown down the Corruptors as well. I'm just going to be seeing our spores continue to fire up. A lot of intercepts continue to move through. Time Warp dropping down just to even just stop, you know, Infestors moving forward at this point. They're at Fear Dragon. Neeb's got basically zero mining, so interceptors are actually going to stop being built now. And that might be just how Scarlett wins this.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real right now, Wardy. Assuming Neeb is able to successfully defend this base, he has 8 workers. It's not exactly a booming economy to replenish those interceptors right now. I really do like this little move out on the right-hand side. I think if he's able to maybe even use some Zealots or DTs or something to hit along the right during all of this, that's maybe how he starts sniping off tech, killing off larvae or hatcheries that were producing larvae, preventing Scarlett's rebacks. Maybe that's a way for him to get back in this game.
My Templar setting up as the Tempest is going to push forward. Carriers are coming through and trying to fight a little bit. Spore Crawlers firing, and we do just see those Infestors maybe wanting to sneak forward just slightly, as we have got... I mean, just a standoff for Lings and Hydra still trying to harass the bottom right, taking away some of the last little bits of mining Neeb has. The thing is, he got this Nexus up Fear Dragon, but he's got no probe, so
yeah,
it doesn't even help that much.
It really doesn't. Honestly, I think the biggest thing that Neeb is doing by taking this base is Scarlett has not taken the base, because that would be the real doom and disaster. But here we go. Mothership does get abducted over here and ends up getting recalled back before taking too much more damage. But that does mean a lot of these other carriers and Voiders are starting to fall. Even one Voider on the right-hand side going down. May not seem like the biggest deal, but every unit matters. He is through the Spore Wall, though, and is finally going to be able to start taking out a few more of these, start taking out some of the drones and the mining over here for Scarlett. But I think this might just be the big fight over here. Mothership going to end up falling. Infestor's going to burrow for a little bit. High Templars do have enough energy to continue storming, but they're actually not getting in range. There are finally some storms coming on out. Is Neeb going to be able to pull through? He is evening up supply a lot.
I mean, this is the fight. The Corruptors are in amongst all of the carriers. All of the carriers have so many interceptors left, though. It kind of want to believe in Neeb's army, mostly because, but only for the moment, because then Scar's got 60 more Corruptors building. So she is going to get in here with reinforcements, but Neeb has a little bit of time to reset and regather. I don't even know, Fear Dragon. That's the last of Scarlett's gas. She's building queens because she has no other option at the moment.
I honestly believe, Wardy, if Neeb is able to just retreat back, heal up this army a little bit, do you think he can take on that Corruptor count? I'm actually not even sure if that would be enough.
I don't know. This game is absolutely ridiculous. A few shots going off. Storms on the Lings. I mean, And I'm surprised he's storming the Link so heavily. Nice to get rid of the Infestors. I would have thought maybe save some of those storms for the Corruptors, but they just dive straight on top of everything. Once again, Carrier's dropping by the second. The Corruptor count not going anywhere. Spore Crawlers to help. And Scarlett is going to take a game number 1 of this best of 3. Wow, 40 minutes.
Man, Wardy, the banks really ended up making the big difference there. That one extra base, I really feel like it was the difference in bank of 1, maybe 1.5 extra bases that just turned everything around. I feel like it goes into one of these situations for both these players where your expansion paths matter so much. The decision of which bases you're going to be taking, which bases you can defend, and if taking an easier base now means maybe taking a harder base later on when you have fewer units, like all of these decisions kind of culminated in Neeb just not being able to reinforce. If he had just a little bit extra, I think he actually could have remade all those units and started making the game again.
That was honestly, this was just such a sick game. This was like PvZ late game, everything you want out of it, right? Like down to the final fight, it really was close, and it gets down to the point that Neeb just doesn't have the probes. You know, if he has the probes, then you can rebuild a little bit. You're not forced to fight the reinforcements right away. Because he wins that fight, it's just Scarlett can rebuild and Neeb can't. And you think about how long he was sat on 6 probes. If he sat on a base of mining that entire time, that might be enough to then pull back. And all you need is what, like a couple of extra Archons or something, because it is actually all it is Corruptors, right? There's nothing else to really fight Archons anymore. So if you can just get that little bit, it probably makes the world of difference, but not quite there. And Scarlett, okay, this, if a game went 40 minutes, I was never expecting Scarlett to take it in 40 minutes. It would have 100% for me been Neeb every time. So I'm just super hyped about that first game, man. It puts us into a fun position for the rest of this series. And yeah, fantastic stuff. Just we're running out of words to describe it. It was awesome. I imagine all your NA dreams just became true, Dear Dragon.
I knew it was either going to be one of these two. It was either going to be Scarlett being very, very cheeky and very cheesy, doing something, and we would have like a 10-minute series between all 3 games, or it was going to be one of these long series. It's always one of the two. And the funny thing is, there's like a weird meta that happens after you play a 40-minute plus game, where a lot of players just kind of say they either get really aggressive or they just try and play the exact same game again. I feel like the second of those two, where the players just try and play another long macro game again, is a lot more rare. But funny enough, I feel like it happens sometimes with these two specifically. For some reason, these two just bring it out from each other.
Loved it. Loved every second of it. There's nothing else to say. It was just a fantastic game, right? Down to the wire, all the way through. The thing is as well, it wasn't like 40 minutes of like, it wasn't the 40-minute game we had earlier today, right? Where it's like, we were waiting for someone to die. There was 40 minutes of like, it was to, you know, back and forth. There was meaningful action, meaningful harassment, really meaningful denying of bases, you know, really important bases getting set up in the later stages.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like peak StarCraft, guys. Like, you can never complain about a game like that.
Look, all I'm saying is that NA always lives up. But here we go. We're moving on to Death Aura for game number 2. Will we see another similar long-term macro game coming out from both these two? Or is it going to end with a bit of a cheesier opening? We'll have to see as we start on game number 2 here.
Oh, in the bottom right-hand side, it is our red Protoss player. It is Neeb.
And up in the top left-hand side of the map, we have the blue Zerg player. She is Scarlett.
So we've got to compare the maps, right, after a game like that. And Death Aura immediately to me, straight away, yes, there's like rich double Vespene gases on a base, but it's so difficult to get there in the first place. In general, moving, 5 bases, I feel, is doable for Neeb. Getting to 6 bases would be really, really tough. So it's hard to get into as late game of a scenario with, the kind of completely mined out, only 1 base left sort of situation. I would imagine this map in PvZ generally, if it even starts heading that way, will still resolve more toward the 20-minute mark than the 40-minute mark.
I'm with you there. I feel like the bases up in the top right that are up on the high ground and the bottom left, they almost kind of feel like just really, really isolated bases that you never really want to take. You kind of just have to take eventually if it gets to that point. I don't really see a lot of games getting past those 5 bases for Neeb. I think it's going to be extremely tough for him in that situation as well. And for that reason, we might also see Neeb be a little bit more hesitant
I
about
wonder
doing...
how Scarlett approaches game 2 after a win in the late game. You know, you look at this, it's definitely not as good of a Nidus map, right? There's less places to really put the Nidus that are going to be abusable. It's definitely, once the rocks go down, this map goes from being one of the longer rush distances, bases to bases, to like one of the shorter ones, actually. So it really does make Swarm Host play quite vulnerable. So I would be surprised to see Scarlett playing in the same way for this game number 2.
All right. Well, we are going to see just like a Nexus coming down over here for Neeb. He's getting up that Stargate like you were talking about, Wardy.
Yeah. I honestly, I think the Stargate's just how Neeb likes to play this matchup. Especially if he feels... I feel like, yes, he just lost a late game scenario, but I still feel like that's where he feels most comfortable, right? And I think he says his best way of getting there is via this Stargate, instead of going into something like a Twilight Council. And especially with the way Scarlett oftentimes plays, Twilight Councils do leave you super vulnerable to even just like the simple Ling Floods and stuff of like 19 drones. So yeah, I really don't mind the Stargate. It's very Neeb-like as well. As you see, the probe spot to kill one Ling, the other Ling will be hunted down. I mean, the Lings come in for the scouting into the main base, but they don't see the Stargate in the natural.
Yeah, funny enough. I think that Ling does eventually make its way down over there and finds that Stargate, but it is just going to be a Phoenix first anyway, so that Stargate was going to reveal itself pretty soon, and it'll probably still just be able to kill as many Overlords out in the center of the map, while I assume he just waits for his 3 Oracles to be made to go harass with, as Neeb really is kind of just he's a person who of habit. He likes certain build styles, and he just is okay with doing them over and over and over again.
Well, we've got our pylon placing off over the side. A couple of spores building up from Scarlett at the moment, as we have got the setup to defend against this. So obviously it's a Phoenix first. So you go clean out those Overlords, you get those Oracles up after. What does Neeb do as a follow-up? How aggressive does he get here? Already has 3 Adepts, right? Which is kind of to the point where you could move across the map, but with the Oracle being second... Oh, he's going to go for a Fleet Beacon.
Wow.
I love it. Is this double Stargate carrier? I think it is. I love this.
Usually you do this on 3 base pretty quickly though, right? Like
no, so this is a different variation, because this is a little bit of a different way. So you're kind of thinking he's just going to go like mass sky toss from the start, right? And he's kind of going to do that, but think of this as like a Terran build in like a BC in TVZ. He's going to build like 2 carriers at a time. He'll go up to 4, but he's going to build a ground army behind it, and he can harass with those carriers, and when they get in trouble, they recall home, like the TBC would teleport home. And it's a really fun way to have annoying carriers into a strong ground army, because there's not a lot that really kills this super quickly without really good scouting. And you're then on carriers already with a great ground army. Like, what do you do against that? If you build too many Corruptors, the ground army kills you. If you don't build any Corruptors, the ground army kills you as well, because the carrier support helps so much. So it's a really complicated build to find a proper answer to.
Okay, well, Scarlett is going to be able to catch these 2 Adepts in the center of the map, but she hasn't really gotten a whole lot of scouting beyond just the Stargate opener, which looks extremely normal so far from Neeb. Nothing should really have been setting off big alarm bells, and Scarlett honestly has been pretty in the dark outside of just, you have a 3rd base. Cool, I know I'm not getting 2 base follow-up all in with like Adepts or something, but she's going to be going for the melee upgrades as well as a Baneling Nest.
Yeah, playing a Ling Bane style, obviously when you see the Stargate early, it basically says you don't need Roaches, so you can commit to that melee upgrade early. That's obviously great, because the sooner you get +2 melee, the sooner you're just rolling one-shot Banelings into mineral lines.
Adepts are going to get caught in the center again. They're trying to use that speed zone to try and get out of here. One Adept may actually be able to make its way over toward one of those other bases and snipe off a drone or so. Oh my god. That is the most just excessive use of transfuse to heal up individual drones versus Adepts. I mean, I like it, but that's what I feel like. If you see you're a Marine or someone playing against someone like that, that's when you just call the opponent try hard.
Yeah, no, I can get behind her. Scarlett sees the carriers for the first time. She's like, oh, that's a Spire. So she drops the Spire. This is when carriers 3 and 4 are already on the way out, by the way. She has nothing to fight this right now. This is just super late scouting of what's going on. I mean, these queens will come in, and the queens will do okay, but I mean, this hatchery is dropping, and yeah, there's a couple of transfusions, but there's not a ton of transfusions. In a way, I wonder if she's almost just better kind of letting it go down rather than wasting the energy, because I think it's going to go down anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like she's really going to be able to kill all 16 interceptors before the carriers eventually get the kill there. I like the Ling counterattack over here, but there, like you said, there's already 2 more carriers behind this, and the sentries are able to force field the rest of the Lings out. Carriers continue to move around, almost like you were saying, like those battle cruisers, just kind of trying to find little bits and pieces of damage they can get done. And the nice thing is they're actually siege army units. So yeah, there might be some spore crawlers there, and interceptors might die to those, but well, the carriers aren't going to actually die to those right now, so you can continue harassing.
Ling's pulling back up to the top side as well. We've seen the Phoenix continue to nibble away at a few overlords here. Some of these drones being picked away at. I mean, what's amazing is that, you know, this is how unprepared Scarlett is. You know, I mentioned you can, like, recall these carriers out of trouble. Usually that happens way faster than this. So this is just Scarlett being very unprepared. By the way, this map's amazing for this because of the dead airspace. You have so much room to hide these carriers until Corruptors are out. So yeah, that's really a big benefit. Obviously, the double rich Vespine cast pace is amazing for Scarlett if she can get away with it. That is very far forward, and there is that ground army of Neeb now well underway. Stalker's getting that blink so they can even help chase down and target down Corruptors. I'm not so sure Scarlett's going to hold on to this base, especially after taking so much damage already.
Yeah, I mean, she has losing that base really hurt on the left-hand side. If she's able to keep this base alive, though, I don't know. I mean, she has been able to drone up a lot behind all this. She's been on 80 drones plus for a really long time. But yeah, now that you take a look at this army, I'm like, oh, wow, that is a really scary looking army with 4 carriers, a lot of force fields available. This is a tough one.
Yeah, this is what I mean, right? It's like, what do you do to prepare against this properly? You know, she was right. She built Corruptors. She kind of needs them. But then does she have enough on the ground? Her Bane speed's not quite ready. Neeb doesn't want to move in just yet. +2 melee is about to be done. Plenty of force fields, though, and that's going to be the big issue, trying to make something happen here with the Bane lanes. Those force fields are going to be really good at zoning. Obviously, it doesn't help that this forward base is so close, because Neeb would usually have to commit much deeper onto the Zerg creep or into the Zerg side of the map to be able to be doing this, but now he gets on top of it right away, blinks over the side, and Scarlett, again, no option other than to give this base up. And look at Neeb's confidence, blinking forward despite the Banelings just saying, yep, get rid of all these Corruptors. Now the carriers are going to go unanswered. You're going to kill these carriers with Queen, Scarlett? I really don't think you are.
Oh my god, and this is actually just that point where Neeb has moved in, killed off the base seconds before Baneling speed was finished up. Scarlett is just going to morph in 23 more Banelings on top of her 25, bringing it up to nearly 50. And I think that is just her big move here. If she is just going to try and obliterate this army with raw, unbridled Baneling power. Force fields are going to come out, though. The Ravages have to knock these down. They do start to knock them down, but Neeb has so many sentries, they can just keep replacing these over and over and over again. GG.
Wow. Neeb, like I say, I love this build. I love this build on this map even more so. It kind of played out exactly as I was describing it, right? It's hard to find the right balance of air and ground, and especially if you take any amount of damage from those carriers, the next thing you know, you just can't get the right amount of stuff up, and then you're forced into a weird base that goes down as well. GG's, we get tied up 1-1, and we are going to be going into that game 3, but not before a quick 2-minute break. What a series we are having. An amazing game 1. A super fun build for game number 2, even if it wasn't quite as close and back and forth. Game 3 on the horizon. We're going into Everdream. Now, Fear Dragon, if there's a map which is great for a proxy hatch, it's Everdream. If there's a map that's great for early game pushes, it's Everdream. Everdream is basically the map where we are most likely to see some proper true aggression that we were talking about so much before the series started.
Man, I wouldn't even mind if, like, Neeb, I know he doesn't, but I wouldn't even mind a cannon rush on this map because it's also a great map for that. There's so many shenanigans you could pull out over here. I'm not sure if we're going to see it. Are we going to see it? Oh my God, Wardy.
Oh my
yes.
God.
Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the red Protoss player from Tink. He is Neeb.
As in the top right-hand side, our blue Zerg is Scarlett. Sadly, Fear Dragon, I think he just wanted to hatch block.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I was going to say, like, maybe Neeb is doing some really next level cannon rush because usually you do the 3 pylon wall on this map. And I was thinking maybe he's anticipating getting blocked for a 3 pylon wall. So he's sending out a probe even earlier. But yeah, it is just going to be a hatch block. I wonder if that is going to lead up to his game plan, though, because, you know, it is pretty big economic hit to send out your probe at second 0 of the game. So I do wonder if he's doing something that is truly going to try and take advantage of forcing your opponent to take the 3rd base instead.
I think if you commit to this, you really are usually looking for like a Twilight follow-up, so it really takes advantage of it, right? Versus the scenario, which is if you go for like a Stargate off this, it just doesn't, you know, the Stargate doesn't look to kill, right? Whereas the Glaives does look to kill. And so I really would expect this to be a Twilight this time. A, it's a change-up. B, it really makes sense with that early of a probe to go and make sure you get a hatch block. Let's see what he commits to. It's also Cybercore, already on the way. So, of course, we'll see when that finishes what the choice is. If you go straight into Warp Gate, more likely for it to be Twilight. If it goes Stargate right away, then obviously it's a Stargate, right? But you can kind of tell based on if Warp Gate starts or not, too.
So we'll have to wait for that Cybercore to finish up to take a look at things. For now, Neeb is just trying to be annoying with his probe, denying a little bit of mining time for one of those mineral patches. It is going to be Warp Gate and a Chrono Boosted Adept coming on out. So, all right, Scarlett is going to have full vision of this. Oh, Warp Gate gets canceled, though, and there's the Stargate. So I wonder if that was him reconsidering or if he's trying to, like, hide something for Scarlett. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wonder if he's just... Yeah, it's tough. Maybe he just sees where the Overlord's going. He's like, it's going to see what I'm up to pretty quickly anyways, with it diving through the main natural. He's like, well, in that case, I'm not going to bother with the Twilight. I'm just going to go Stargate. So it means he guarantees getting this Overlord kill right away. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's a couple ways to look at it, right? Maybe it was his plan all along. And he just started Warp Gate for a second, just in case Scarlett looks once, but doesn't check it cancels, right? Obviously now Link's in the main base, get the scout anyway, so Scarlett knows what's up, just saves the throw.
Yeah, really annoying to lose that mining time for just 2 Zerglings this early on, though. So Neeb will have his Adepts sent across the map. One of these Adepts already taken a bit of damage on its shields, but has been getting some pretty successful scouts into the main base, just confirming that there's no real shenanigans happening. And I think if Neeb has gotten a chance to dart over to the 3rd base, he should know that Scarlett is just droning up. Like, there's no weird all-in or anything coming out from her side.
Yeah, it's very regular to begin with here. Is you do have that Phoenix just going to get rid of the Overlords quickly. If he's fortunate, he might find that Overlord that's heading back through the center of the map as well. And it would be nice to get the double kill, right? Because it is just that extra bit of damage, and you don't often get the double kill nowadays with the Phoenix. Not that easily anyway, so it looks as though it's going to get away. Neeb checking to see where it might be. Of course, he doesn't know exactly where it was in the first place, so it's not like he's got an amazing idea of where it could have gotten to. He might accidentally run into it now. Yeah, that's going to be nice. And I think it's too far away to realistically save by a queen or anything. It's kind of close.
Yeah. I don't think he gets it.
Yeah, I don't think he kills it.
Because you don't want to take damage past the shields anyways. Like, I think you could die for it. I think you just go for it.
You dove for it, then you undove for it.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a one hot key syndrome for both his Oracle and his Phoenix for a second, but yeah, Oracle managed to survive after getting one drone kill so far. And it's just derping around on the rocks.
Yeah, I love it, right? It's just like, these rocks are just the most unnecessary thing of a map ever. It really bothered me, like, because so many people obviously, they're just used to clicking in the corner of the mini map, and then the Oracle starts derping around or something, and then I've seen, a Medivac die because of this. If you fly into that top side, it is in range of the main at times from Queens, especially before the Queen range nerf, so it can mess you up.
I don't get, all of these things can fly into outer space, and yet you can't fly over a mountain. What's up with that?
Too much high ground, man.
Too much high ground. It's too high. It actually goes and extends into space. That's how tall the mountain is.
We just can't fit that much high ground into one map. That's all.
That must be it. Resident Glaives getting closer and closer to finishing. Here is the massive swell of depths that Neeb has been making, up to 13 now. Now Scarlett is just droning behind all of this. Has 16 lings out. Has 8 banelings on the way. But is really going to be relying on some good baneling connections in order to take care of these adepts. If she doesn't have those, adepts will be able to get some good damage done.
Yeah, the Banes are really important in this because the Banes will force those adepts to split up, and if the adepts split up, then the lings get a good surround. Banes actually get okay connections to stop, but then the adepts do shade through to the natural. Problem is, if you lose that, if you use up the first wave of Banes and there's still adepts left over, then it's usually a problem because extra Banes don't arrive very quickly. But in this case, not all the Banes were used at the start, and that's a complete cleanup by Scarlett. Not what Neeb was hoping for.
Yeah, that is a brutal shutdown of the adept pressure play that Neeb was going for. He's going to immediately start up charge and start his immortal product, or I guess continue his immortal production behind this. He's already got up his first immortal, as he also gets up his +1 weapons, I imagine, from that forge, and starts gearing up for the next kind of stage of the game. And we're going to be going into not the, the Stargate mid-game and everything. We're getting back to the first 10-15 minutes of game number 1, except he's just not up against Swarm hosts to kind of delay things out.
Yeah, for sure, as we see some lings in this main base are really annoying as well. And it's all the little things that just seem to be going Scarlett's way to start this. Road drawing about to be done for her, and then Spire starting. I mean, nice that Neeb is deciding to go Blink following the Glaives. Means he will have Blink to help with the Spire units. Obviously, those Mutalisks are what are likely to be made, so that Blink definitely helps there for sure. I just wonder if you could do anything with it. Any cancels, Blink and goes charge. I actually, in most scenarios, I think I like charge, but knowing obviously there's a Spire on the way, Blink would have been a nice investment. Yeah,
the Phoenix is going to be able to move around, and will it actually get a scout out on the Spire? Where is this? Okay, Spire's the natural. Phoenix is going to actually walk straight over it. Now, does Neeb actually end up clicking on it? It should be pretty obvious to him, and he clearly is controlling the Phoenix, so I would be surprised if we didn't have some Phoenix production or something coming out in case there are mutas being made. I might be surprised here. I think Neeb is surprising me.
Yeah. He's moving out onto the map a little bit. I mean, 4th base down, so he's gonna make a bit of a wander across the map, but he's not really looking for much. He's gonna double hallucinate, looking for info, scaring Scarlett. But yeah, I was gonna say if he goes more than one creep spread, more than one creep tumor deep on creep, that would have been the real shocker, right? Because he's not set up for a fight with everything he's building right now. At the very least, especially the 4th base, but at the very least, Templar Archives, you want to wait for that to finish. So.
Yeah, even if you don't wait for Storm, just having a few Archons in the mix against a Ling Baneling army is absolutely the ideal. Also, an air weapons is already on the way here for Scarlett, so she is getting ready for that big flood of air units eventually. There the Archons finally being added on. Don't see Storm on the way just yet, and Scarlett poaching forward, looking for an opportunity to snipe off this base. The Roaches and Ravagers are going to be on the retreat, though, and it looks like Neeb is going to be able to give chase a bit.
Grabs a Ravager in the center, which is nice. Obviously, a lot of Banes on the way up. That melee upgrade now halfway done, too. So, I kind of like where Scarlett's taking this. I don't agree. I mean, 4 meters start now when she didn't really have the gas, the minerals, to utilize all of her gas. So, we'll see where it ends up going. She is just going to add more meters in. I feel like if Neeb gets a bit of an inkling about these mutas, he can absolutely maybe make a push across. It's scary attacking into Banes, but obviously it just so much so comes down to execution.
Yeah. Nice evasion there by Neeb. Does not end up losing that Oracle to the Ravagers. I am starting to worry a bit because yes, Archons can massacre Mutalisks. They aren't great at chasing them down, and Neeb doesn't exactly have any other form of anti-air whatsoever besides a singular Phoenix. So he does need to catch wind of this. Okay, the Zealots just ran over the Mutas. That should be the ultimate reveal.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's got to go and deal with this, right?
Yeah.
Back over to the left-hand side already. Big stasis catches a lot of Banelings. That's really, really good. As the probes go running, and honestly, I feel like Neeb's going to clean up a lot of this without many losses. But then the mutas are in the main base as well. What's up against these? Absolutely nothing. So no answer there, but then there's no answer for the Zealots around the map. A lot of the Lings have to return home to try and fight Zealots, but all of the gateways are being unpowered, and without any power to gateways, Neeb's going to be stacking up a lot of money, and that's going to make continuing to fight these armies very difficult.
Yeah, Scarlett diving on top of the Stalkers and the Photon Cannons is an interesting decision. But I mean, I guess she will eventually take these out with some losses. Now she can go after the probes. She is doing a lot of economic damage here. Whereas Scarlett has kept her drones alive. She's just losing bases. Neeb is keeping bases alive, but losing all of his probes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, full-on base trade movement, it really comes down to are the mutas enough to eventually overpower this army. The warrior I have is that Scarlett hasn't really continued to build any mutas. She's got 400 gas, and there we go. You know, every single mutalist is going to count on this. You need to get anything out you possibly can. It's going to get funky because Neeb is going to clean up so much and then realistically just get back home. And as long as he has some probes up, Scarlett's basically going to have zero mining. There's so many Archons in the main. I mean, Scarlett kind of has to dive in. I don't disagree that she needs to clean this up and keep on trading out. But a lot of mutas lost, and again, it makes the future of this game a bit better off for Neeb.
I also want to point out that while there are only a few mutas over here, I mean, it's weird to say that this is a few. There are 27 mutas out on the map. There are actually a bunch more mutas that are not in just that main flock, it seems like, as they did spread out over toward the forward Rich Vespian Gas Geyser base. So Scarlett actually split up from mutas a little bit, and now having taken out 3 Archons, hey, you know, if she finds 1 or 2 more Archons, I actually think that's enough to just magic box on top of the remaining ones and kill Neeb. There's no other anti-air besides the Archons.
Just 6 Archons against 27 Mutalisks. The Lings and the main base are going to get rid of Immortals and Zealots as well.
Oh, yeah. Guardian Shield is so important, but here's the thing. Scarlett is actually just down to that spawning pool, the hatchery, and this hatchery. And this hatchery is not going to be long for this world. The drones may... Oh, they may actually end up escaping over here, but Scarlett only has enough for, what, 1 more hatchery right now?
Neeb knows they're kind of over here, these drones, though, but he actually runs into Mutalisks instead. Keeping some probes with his army, not that they can really do anything. He's got no money to build anything else. A spawning pool and a lair is all that's on the map, but there's nothing in the main base to kill that spawning pool and the lair. Neeb is looking like he's sending some units across. Archon Micro in the prism to chase this away. Of course, again, Scarlett does have drones, so she can build another structure if necessary. 6 Archons against now 24 Mutalisks. As Neeb will leave the probes behind. They don't really matter though, right? Like, you can't build anything anyway.
They actually buy some time over there. Scarlett goes back for those. And Scarlett needs to defend these bases. I mean, she does still have a few drones out on the map. I guess her hope is that she can remake a bunch of other things, but she's already remade a hatchery in the bottom right. If Neeb uses his hallucinated Phoenix to go find, yes, exactly this, to go find the remaining base, I actually think he wins in a straight up building race.
But can't Scarlett just buy loads of time? She can build an extractor in every corner of the map.
But she only has, she has 220 resources now.
She can build 8 extractors, right?
If she keeps her drones alive, she's one of the top left.
Oh, she's going to lose some of them. That's really big. That's so important right now because that's the less buildings you can get on the map. Another one goes down. Only 2 drones alive. This hatchery is dropping. This is what it's coming down to. This is it. This is the only building right now. She needs to build something else before it goes down.
She pulled her drone away. Oh my gosh, they missed